Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was Fallen Fang and got harem with Ty Lee, Temari and Suki. Part 2. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. Naruto was making rice porridge with the help of Sokka, who was doing push-ups. 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 6 quack. Sokka fell on his stomach. He was tasked to do 100 push-ups before Naruto finished breakfast. If he didn't, then he'd have to complete 500 sit-ups before he finished lunch. And you were so close. Such a shame. Naruto said, and Sokka's eyes gained a fire that could put Sazens to shame. He ran through 41 easily and jumped straight up. Ah, just in time for breakfast. The blonde Earthbending master said. He gave Sokka a blowhorn. Here, wake everyone up. Naruto tasked. Okay. He blew the horn loudly. Toph's limbs were spread out, Aang and Katara fell off their hammocks, and Momo, who was sleeping on the arm of the couch, jumped on the ceiling with a frizzy tail. Sokka, why are we up so early? Katara groaned. Rise and shine, little sister, we're gonna have a big breakfast before going to ask around the city for clues to Appa's location. Sokka exclaimed. Aang jumped from his sprawled out position with determination in his eyes. Katara did the same and Toph just laid there, her face on the floor. Blame me, oh Hotman. Aang yipped, his arms in the air. Blame me, oh? Sokka asked. It was a form of greeting in the Fire Nation, it's been outdated, like 100. Naruto informed. Let's have breakfast. Aang said. Naruto handed 3 servings to Katara, Aang and Sokka. Hey, what about me? Toph asked. Naruto threw a Genomite rock at her. Eat up. Naruto said. Toph took a bite from the rock and instantly fell in love. Hey, that's Genomite. Sokka voiced. Yup, or known as creeping crystal, and it's also made from rock candy. Naruto explained while eating his portion of rice porridge from the pot. This is good. Katara praised and Aang agreed with a head nod. I'm skip afternoon. Momo jumps on a bowl of food tied to a pole and starts to eat, but is scared by a cat owl. Team Avatar, accompanied by Naruto, is in a pet store and speaking with the owner at the counter. I'm sorry, but I haven't heard anything about a flying bison. I didn't even know there were any. The pet store owner told the group. Aang's shoulders lowered a bit. If someone wanted to sell a stolen animal without anyone knowing, where would they go? Katara asked. Sokka got in the man's face, slightly frustrated. Where's the black market? Who runs it? Sokka asked while pointing at him accusingly. Come on, you know. He continued to interrogate. The man started sweating bullets and looked at Naruto. The pet store owner looked at Naruto for confirmation, who gave it. Okay. But come closer. The man whispered. Aang and Sokka squashed their faces together to get in his face. The black market is an illegal organization that was shut down by the Dai Li King's rules. They recently came back into business as a circus that has a firebender as its figurehead, or their leader. The pet owner explained, shocking the team of friends. They did send animals, with some of the workers talking about a wind buffalo with an arrow on its head. The owner told the group, who gasped. Which circus? Naruto asked, and the owner sweated slightly. I can't tell you that. The pet owner said. Aang used his airbending to drag the owner out from the counter. What do you mean you can't tell us? Aang asked angrily. Naruto grabbed his shoulder roughly. Avatar. Let him go, he's told you all he knows. Naruto said. He knows where Appa is. Tell me, now. Aang shouted, and his tattoos and eyes began flickering white. He probably does, but we can't force him to speak. Naruto said, and Aang was ignoring him. Where is my bison? Aang asked the store owner. He started levitating the man higher. Where is he? An avatar state-induced, Aang shouted. Naruto roughly threw Aang out of the shop, far, making him land in a pile of hay. In doing so, dropped the shop owner, who hid behind his desk. Remember whose city you're in. Naruto shouted. His temper was rising like an active volcano, and he was getting sick of Aang's attitude. Him throwing his avatar state around like it's a toy and expecting people would yield to him is starting to piss him off. Naruto. Leave him alone. Katara yelled. No. He has to understand that we can't just harass people who have info about his flying buffalo. Naruto said, and Aang bursted out from the hay bales in a gale of wind and was thrusted towards Naruto. Naruto encased his arm in earth and grabbed Aang with the earth on his arm before choke slamming him into the ground, locking him in place. See, unstable. Naruto said and ripped his hand out of the earth, but Aang stayed there. Aang calmed down and deactivated the avatar state and saw the havoc he made from just lifting the owner up. The birdhouses were destroyed from falling over and their food spread out across the floor. I'm sorry, sir. Aang apologized sincerely. The owner peeked out from his hiding spot. It's okay, K. But who's gonna pay for all of this? The shopkeeper yelled. Naruto threw 5,000 yuan in his face. Pay your shop with that. Naruto then roughly grabbed Aang by the collar and pulled him out of the earth. He walked out while carrying Aang around. Ba Sing Se University. The scene fades to an overhead shot of Ba Sing Se University and cuts to Naruto, Sokka and Toph standing in front of a student. A few students are walking around. I've never seen any sandbenders or nomads around here. The university student states. You should ask Professor A, he teaches the class on desert cultures. The student explained. Sokka didn't look happy at not getting the information he wanted. Right. And which of your professors could we ask about the war with the Fire Nation? Sokka asks the university student who was nervously sweating. The student looks at Naruto, behind Sokka, who shakes his head at him. Sokka notices this from the corner of his eye, but he quickly stops before he can see it fully. The student stands up and goes away, but trips, dropping his scrolls. He quickly picks them back up and hurries to go. Let's go, Sokka. Naruto walks away with Team Avatar following. Why did you make us leave? He would have told us. Sokka said. It's illegal to talk about the war. I'll tell you later, let's regroup with the Avatar and the water girl. Naruto told the group. Her name's Katara. Toph informed. Yes, her. Naruto said. They arrived back at Team Avatar's house some time later and noticed Katara holding a scroll. Hey, check this out. Katara got the attention of Sokka who grabbed the scroll. The king is throwing a celebratory party for his pet bear. Sokka read the following. Visitors are allowed entry into the royal party but have to hold invitations. Sokka finished. Oh, I forgot about the party. I have to attend as my king's right-hand man. Naruto said. Wait, do you think we could attend? Aang asked. Sure, but you guys have to behave yourselves. Especially you. Naruto pointed to Sokka. Why me? Sokka pointed to himself to show emphasis. Because, you'd probably pick a fight with Bosco for his food. Naruto said and Team Avatar fell on their butts laughing. And besides, you guys don't have manners. Naruto's statement was backed by Toph's head nod and Katara took it personally. I don't have manners. I'm the girl in the group with the most manners. Katara proclaimed with a huff and arms crossed. Yes, you are. But you don't know how to shut your mouth. Naruto said and ducked under a water whip. My point proven. Ahahaha. Toph and Sokka laughed, holding their sides, their feet kicking in humor. What? What's so funny? Katara asked, her face contorted into annoyance. Toph and her might be able to get in, but that's a big might. Toph, teach the water tribe girl manners. I'll let you guys in out back. Naruto ordered and left via earth submergence. I don't get what he means. I have manners. Aang says before he grabs a nearby curtain and puts it around himself like a noble's robe and talks in a very sophisticated manner. Good evening Mr. Sokka Water Tribe, Ms. Katara Water Tribe, Lord Momo of the Momo Dynasty. Your Momo-ness. Aang speaks in his posh accent. Momo peeks at Aang from under the carpet and slightly bows in respect. Sokka stands up also wearing a curtain like a robe. Mimicking a typical high-class person. Avatar Aang, how do you do? Go on. Sokka jokingly says. Aang bowed to Sokka and Sokka, trying to outdo Aang's bow, bows back. Aang tries to further out Sokka's bow with a deeper bow and Sokka returns this bow with an even deeper bow. Both of them try to bow at the same time but they knock each other's foreheads together and fall down. Toph walks toward Katara stating this. Katara might be able to pull it off but you two would be lucky to pass as busboys. She says and Sokka can be seen on the floor rubbing his sore forehead. But I feel so fancy. He says until his goofy face turns into one of annoyance when he feels Toph's nod embed itself on his forehead. The scene changes to a time of dusk where Sokka and Aang are playing a game. Water, earth, fire, air was what the game was called or elements. They bob their fists a few times before throwing them out and opening them. Earth. Aang yells while his hand stayed in the clenched fist while Sokka's was open with his fingers wiggling. Fire. Sokka groaned while Aang held his hands up in victory while grinning triumphantly, flicking Sokka's head hard. Katara and Toph enter the room from a door, wearing makeup, exquisite Earth Kingdom dresses, and holding a fan each. Toph and Katara stare at the boys calmly before giving in to a fit of giggles. Aang blushes and stares dreamily at the sight of Katara. Wow, you look beautiful. Aang said with a goofy grin and got flicked for his efforts, courtesy of Sokka. Katara opens her mouth to reply to Aang's compliment but is stopped by Toph placing her fans in front of her mouth. Don't talk to the commoners, Katara. First rule of society. Toph says before taking Katara's hands and guides outside. We'll get in the party and then find a way to let you in through the side gate. Katara promised, completely forgetting that Naruto will let them in. The sound of a gong is heard as Momo walks past them, wearing one of the curtains as a cape. Aang looks at Sokka, who merely shrugs. Iroh and Zuko's tea shop. Cut to outside the tea shop where Iroh and Zuko are working. An Earth Kingdom guard walks in through the door. Jet is shown to be spying on the shop from an alley. Jet's face contorted with an expression of suspicion. Smellerbee and Longshot walk up behind Jet. "Jet, we need to talk," Smellerbee said, Jet's head whipped around in surprise. "What? Oh great, it's you guys. Where have you been?" Jet leaned back on the alleyway wall in case he was spotted. "I could use some help with surveillance here," he told the two freedom fighters in a semi-hushed tone. "We've been talking. And we think you're becoming obsessed with this. It's not healthy," she said in concern. Jet looked at her and Longshot in surprise. "Oh, really? You both think this?" he asked where Longshot wrapped an arm around Smellerbee's shoulder in agreement with her statement. "We came here to make a fresh start. But you won't let this go. Even though there is no real proof," Smellerbee reasoned. "Well, maybe if you'd help me," Jet said. "Jet, you gotta stop this," Smellerbee said as she was starting to worry for her leader. "Maybe you've forgotten why we need to start over," Jet said. Longshot and Smellerbee looked down, guiltily. "Maybe you've forgotten about how the Fire Nation left us all homeless. How they wiped out all the people we loved," he reminded them. "If you don't want to help me, I'll get the evidence on my own," he promises and marches toward the tea shop. Inside the shop. "This is the best tea in the city." The customer praised Iroh's magnificent brew of tea. Iroh closed his eyes and let the steam from the tea engulf him. "The secret ingredient is love." He waves a hand through the steam coming from the teapot and walks toward the back of the shop where the owner is, while Zuko gives him a disgusted look. Ao was seen surveying the shop and was impressed by the increase in income. "I think you're due for a raise," Pao told Iroh. Suddenly the front door was slammed open with a fuming Jet furiously stomping in. "I'm tired of waiting." Jet sneers venomously while pointing an accusing finger at Iroh and Zuko. "These two men are firebenders." Jet unsheathes his hook swords and prepares to fight. Iroh and Zuko quickly exchange looks, not knowing what to do. "I know they're firebenders, I saw the old man heating his tea." Jet pleaded his case, but the Earthbenders looked at him bleakly. "He works in a tea shop," he says with doubt evident in his tone. "He's a firebender. I'm telling you," Jet shouts. The Earth Guard stands up from his seat, along with another man. "Drop your swords, boy. Nice and easy," he said while reaching for his swords on his belt. "You'll have to defend yourself. Then everyone will know." Jet points his swords at Zuko in an attempt to frighten him. "Go ahead, show them what you can do." Jet slowly walks toward Zuko and Iroh with his swords. Just as one of the guards was about to draw his swords, Zuko steps in front and grabs them instead. "You want a show? I'll give you a show." Zuko unsheathes the customer's broadswords and enters a fighting stance. He pulls a table in front of him with his foot and kicks it at Jet, who slices the table with his swords and jumps over it. As he lands, he swings both hook swords at the Fire Nation prince, who deflects the attack and jumps backward onto another table, which is sliced in half by Jet, swinging a sword through the middle of the table. Zuko steps onto one half of the table and balances on one foot. Jet continues his attack by cutting the legs on the half of the table Zuko is standing on. Zuko quickly jumps up, and as he lands, he swings both broadswords at Jet's feet, and Jet somersaults away and lands in a crouching position before charging forward at Zuko again. Zuko swings both of his swords at Jet, who went to block. Jet blocks the broadswords before pushing the swords outwards, leaving Zuko defenseless, and hooked his foot before swinging him out through the door. Jet runs after him and strikes at Zuko with both swords. Zuko defends the strike, and both combatants lock swords. Jet gives Zuko a sinister grin before saying, "You must be getting tired of using those swords," he states. Zuko held a look of annoyance. "Why don't you go ahead and firebend at me?" Jet asks sarcastically. "Please, son, you're confused. You don't know what you're doing." Iroh shouts out to Jet but went unheard. Zuko breaks the clash before swinging at Jet, but Jet stops Zuko's broadsword with the ends of his hook swords, spins around and deflects it to the side. The Fire Nation prince spins with his swords and tries to counterattack, but Jet hooks the ends of his swords together and begins to swing them at Zuko in large circular motions. Zuko retreats back a few steps to defend himself. "Bet you wish she'd help you out with a little fire blast right now." Jet mocked and swung at Zuko's feet. Zuko stabs one of his broadswords through the hilt, pinning it to the ground. Jet looks at it with annoyance before focusing back on Zuko. "You're the one that needs help." He bites back. Both the combatants lose a sword and continue fighting with only one. He turns in a circle and tries to swipe at Zuko, but Zuko quickly advances and swings his sword at Jet. Jet pulls his attack just in time to bend backward and avoid Zuko's blade, cutting the straw sticking out of Jet's mouth in half. Jet regained his balance and jumped backward onto the edge of a well. "You see that, Jet?" asked the crowd before continuing. "The Fire Nation is trying to silence me," Jet proclaimed and stared venomously at Zuko and Iroh. "It'll never happen." Jet begins to attack again, hooking his sword to the top of the well and sending a flying kick toward Zuko. Back with Team Avatar. Aang and Sokka are seen, standing back to back, fully dressed as busboys, serving refreshments to the guests of the party. Aang begins pouring a drink while Sokka is serving food to people who pass by. A little worried. "Where's Katara and Toph?" Aang asked. You see, when Katara and Toph arrived at the palace, they were turned away for not having an invitation, and they soon got assistance from Long Feng, and he guided them inside and never left their sides. Forget about them. Just keep an eye out for the king. He grows slightly annoyed as Momo's tail, which has been sticking out of Aang's hat, begins to wag in his face. "I don't know what he looks like," Aang told Sokka, who shrugged his shoulders. "You know, royal flowing robes, fancy jewelry," he says before he grabs Momo's tail, still wagging in his face, and vigorously stuffs it back into Aang's hat. Aang looks around the room to show the party guests, all fitting Sokka's description. They are all adorned in fancy flowing robes and headpieces, chatting and eating food. "That could be anyone," he frustratedly said. The scene changes to Toph walking behind them with grace and allegiance. Trying to speak in a fancy voice. "Another crab puff, please," Toph requested, and Sokka bowed to eye level with her and lowered the pallet of food. "You found us," Aang said, and Toph crossed her arms with a smirk. "I'd know your little footsteps anywhere, twinkled toes," Toph said, fully confident with her seismic ability. Katara catches up to the group and Aang blushes when he sees her. Opening his eyes, realizing who they are, sarcastically said. "Thanks for letting us in," he said with an eyebrow raise. "Sorry, but the guy who escorted us in won't let us out of his sight," Katara tells them. Team Avatar looks out to show all of the party guests, none of which seem to be following them. A slightly confused Sokka, not seeing anyone following them, confusedly says. "What guy?" he asks, and Judy approaches the group and is anxious to see them. "What are you doing here? You have to leave immediately or we will be in terrible trouble," Judy said while Sokka put an arm on her shoulder. "We don't know what you're talking about, Judy. We're here for the party just like you." Sokka lied, laughing at the end at Judy's expression. "You don't understand. You must go." Judy shoves Sokka off her and onto Aang, causing him to spill the water inside the pitcher he was carrying on a guest. All the guests' attention is now focused on Aang. Judy's large, happy smile quickly turns sour and is replaced by a frown and a look of dread. Aang looks around at the guests as Momo hides back under the hat on the floor and slinks away. Aang blushes and waves at the crowd, laughing nervously as Sokka leans in toward Aang. "You keep their attention while I look for the king with a plan," Sokka whispered to the bald boy. He got their attention. "Watch this, everybody." Aang jumps out of his busboy clothes and lands on the long dining table as Sokka walks off into the crowd. Aang swings his arms over the guests' drinks, waterbending the liquid out of the cups. He jumps onto a pitcher and balances on top of it while continuing to waterbend. Aang brings the liquid above his head and creates a swirling multicolored ball. The crowd cheers and claps as he spins around. Bosco growls with delight at Aang's antics. Back at the tea shop. Outside the tea shop, Zuko and Jet were still fighting, it seems. Zuko growls as he swings his sword at Jet, who dodges the attack. He moves on to Zuko's side and they end up back to back. Zuko and Jet attempt to strike the opponent behind them, but neither can get past the other's defense. Two Dai Li agents walked into the fray. "Drop your weapons," the Dai Li agent on the left ordered. Zuko and Jet step away and face each other. Zuko lowers his sword as Jet points his at Zuko and Iroh. "Arrest them, they're firebenders," Jet ordered. "This poor boy is confused, we're just simple refugees," Iroh said. Ao points at Jet accusingly. "This young man wrecked my tea shop and assaulted my employees," Pao yelled, and the customer from earlier came to Pao's claim and Iroh and Zuko's defense. "It's true, sir, we saw the whole thing. This crazy kid attacked the finest tea maker in the city," the customer said. "Oh, that's very sweet," Iroh said with a small blush. The two Dai Li agents walk up to Jet, who looks at them angrily. The Dai Li agent on the right says. "Come with us, son." Jet swings his hook sword at the agent, who catches the sword with his rock gloves. The guard disarms Jet and both guards pull the boy's arms behind his back, binding his wrists together using their rock gloves. Jet was seen being dragged away toward a wagon designed for holding captured criminals. "You don't understand. They're Fire Nation. You have to believe me," Jet shouted. The crowd begins to disperse. Jet was in the wagon on his knees as he looked up as the doors were shut. The people left in the street watch the wagon go away. Longshot and Smellerby look on, hidden within the crowd, and silently walk out of sight. Time skip a couple weeks age. In Team Avatar's place of stay in Ba Sing Se, where Sokka is drawing inaccurate pictures of Appa for missing posters. Katara and Aang enter. "We found a printer to make our posters," she says cheerfully, reveals the poster, and Ong smiles and points at it. Hey, I thought designing the Lost Appa poster was my job. I've been working all day on my Appa. Sokka said proudly. Showing his crudely drawn picture of Appa with a proud smile. Ong held an exasperated expression while Katara tried to hold back her laughter. Sokka, the arrow is on Appa's head. Ong pointed out the bad attempt of art from the Water Tribe warrior. This is his head. Sokka said in dismay while pointing to the sketch. Katara took the picture from Sokka, looking confused. Why are feet coming out of it? Katara snatches back the picture indignantly. Those are his horns. Sokka says before lowering his head in shame or embarrassment. Probably the latter. I haven't seen him in a while, okay? Was his excuse. Toph, who was sitting in a lotus position with Naruto in front of her, she mockingly said. It looks just like him to me. She joked and got Sokka's hopes up before they were diminished. Thank you, I worked really. He suddenly remembered that she is blind. Why do you feel the need to do that? Sokka asked flatly. Toph was flicked on her head by a stone, throwing her head back in anguish, clutching the spot, courtesy of Naruto. Hahaha. Sokka laughed at this before his head snapped back on instinct from his training, he narrowly dodged a pebble. Ha! Sokka exclaimed, his teacher Naruto missing him, he then was kicked in the stomach. He was left rolling on the ground, huffing and puffing, wheezing breathlessly. Minutes later he got back up. Let's just stick with the professional version. Katara finalized. Sokka angrily rips up his drawing before returning to his goofy expression. Come on, let's get busy. Ong excitedly says while holding up some pamphlets. That's not going to end well. Naruto says, waiting patiently for Toph to sit back up because she was clearly faking being knocked out. Why not? Katara asked. Not having authorization for setting up flyers is illegal and could be pursued by the Dai Li, and if the king gets wind of this he said. Ong shivered slightly at how cold Naruto's voice sounded. I'm sorry Naruto. But I'm going to do whatever I can to get my bison. Ong apologizes and is ready to fight if necessary in order to find his best friend. Naruto walked in front of Ong and lowered his head to face Ong. Sweat beaded down his temple. If you get caught, tell the Dai Li I gave you the authorization. Naruto said before walking back to his spot. Ong bowed deeply. Thank you Naruto. He left the house with his glider in hand and Momo on his shoulder. HMPT. What a dope. Naruto said. He waved his hand and Toph was thrown back up from an earth column. Breath. Feel the earth all around us, not just the ground. Sense it, feel it, trust it. Put your trust in the earth. Naruto sagely said with Toph doing as instructed. Sense the earth. Toph inwardly asked, but she didn't know what that meant. Earth was everywhere. Focus on earth far away. Naruto said cryptically. Toph did so, she sensed earth far away, but she still sensed it. Naruto secretly had a metal knife in his hand behind his back. She clenched her fist slightly and the knife behind his back bent and bent and bent before it resembled a pretzel. She let go of the force, sensing no progress and gave up. I give up. I don't know how this sensing stuff is gonna help me become a better bender. Toph growled. Naruto nodded. Don't worry, you'll understand in due time. Naruto said he walked over to Sokka's down form. Get up. Naruto ordered. Sokka stood up fully. Show me what you've learned. Naruto jumped in his fighting stance. Sokka went for a high axe kick which Naruto goes low and sweeps Sokka's legs. Trying to stop his fall he placed his hands on the ground and flared his legs, trying to kick Naruto's legs from under him. Naruto just stepped back and kicked him into a roly-poly. Is that what I've told you? To run away. Naruto rushed Sokka. Sokka got in a stand similar to Naruto's. When Naruto was closer and went to punch him, Sokka slipped the punch. He then grabbed the arm and tried judo flipping him, but because of Naruto's superior weight, he didn't get far. Iroh and Zuko. Zuko and Iroh are working in their tea shop. Iroh serves tea to two customers who enjoy it. They approach him. So, you're the genius behind this incredible brew. Quan said, impressed with the taste of the brew of tea. The whole city is buzzing about you. I hope Pao pays you well. He smirks as his gold ring glistened. The tea is its own reward. Iroh said wisely. But it doesn't have to be the only reward. How would you like to have your own tea shop? Quan asked as Iroh went flabbergasted. When Pao heard this he looked in the direction of his famous tea maker and Quan concerned. My own tea shop. This is a dream come true. Iroh said in amazement. Pao quickly moved to stand between the group when he caught wind of this ridiculous claim. What's going on here? Are you trying to poach my tea maker? Pao asked Quan. Sorry Pao, but that's business for you, am I right? Pao looked nervous for a second. Mushy, if you stay, I'll make you assistant manager. Wait, senior assistant manager. Pao bargained. I'll provide you with a new apartment in the upper ring. Quan bargained further. Zuko, who was busy putting empty teacups on a tray, looks up and glances over his shoulder to follow Kwan's offer more closely. The tea shop is yours to do whatever you want, complete creative freedom. Kwan said. I even get to name the shop? He asked. Of course. Kwan laughed. Pao wanted to use what little leverage he still had. Senior executive assistant manager. Pao asks with a nervous smile. Iroh hands him the pot of tea and bows to the customer, agreeing to the terms. Zuko walks by as Pao walks away sadly. Did you hear, nephew? This man wants to give us our own tea shop in the upper ring of the city. Iroh told his nephew excitedly. That's right, young man, your life is about to change for the better. Kwan told the young man happily. Zuko didn't bother looking over to his uncle. I'll try to contain my joy. He said while walking outside, slamming the door shut. As he walks outside, he grabs a falling Appa poster. He climbs to the top of a house and notices several of them falling. He searches the skies for any sign of the avatar. Back at the house. Sokka and Katara are playing a game. Toph is just relaxing as Aang re-enters. Naruto seemed to be missing. I just finished dropping all the leaflets. Has anyone come in with news about Appa? Aang asked impatiently. It's only been a day. Just be patient. Katara says motherly and returns to her game as Aang sits. A knock at the door and Aang jumps up and runs to the door. Wow, you're right. Patience really pays off. Aang stammers excitedly while running to the door to open. They saw a brunette boy, about the height of Naruto. He was wearing a plain grey shirt with an earth disc silhouette. He wore brown pants with elastic tied at the ankles and ankle-length open-toed sandals. He had golden eyes and wore medical pads on his cheeks. Hello. The mysterious kid greeted brightly. Team Avatar was on guard. Toph got in her stance. Katara had her hand at the waist by her water pouch, ready to fire. Aang held his staff in defense if the stranger was hostile. Sokka had one hand on his holster and the other on his boomerang sheath. Whoa. What's with the hostility? The brown-haired kid asked. Who are you and what are you doing here? Aang asked. Sokka discreetly threw his boomerang out the side window. Well, for starters. Hi everyone, I'm Fang and I'm here to give information about your bison. He said and Aang sped towards him, his face in fangs. Sokka's boomerang came back in through the other window and back into his hand. Tell me what you know. Aang demanded. Hey. Get off me. Fang pushed Aang off. Brushing dirt off his shirt. I've seen your bison flying overhead to the east part of Ba Sing Sea. Fang said. Sooner or later I found his footprint. But when I got there, I didn't see anything. Fang informed. Aang looked down. Sokka narrowed his eyes skeptically. This guy felt off, like he was acting. Toph felt the same way. If you didn't have any valuable information, then why did you come here with nothing to work with? Aang screamed in the newcomer's face. I just did, go to the place I told you and look for clues. For someone with a big head, you never use your brain right. Fang yelled in Aang's face, not afraid in the slightest. Fang slams the door in Aang's face. Sokka laughed at the burn that Earth guy gave Aang. I don't feel right about that guy, it feels like he's faking his whole being. Sokka said critically. I'm with Sokka on this one, he seemed off. Toph said, leaning on the wall. See, Toph agrees with me, that kid is no good. Sokka said. He was kinda cute, you know. Katara said with a blush. Aang grumbled about new guys ruining his chances. I don't care. From now on, we do whatever it takes to find Appa. Aang said angrily. Toph whooped in excitement. Yeah, let's break some rules. Toph cheered and took out a side of the house with earthbending. Momo flies out the broken side of the house and they all exit. Two Dai Li agents watch overhead from a house roof across the street. The Earth Kingdom Palace. The royal palace where the Earth King was talking to himself it seemed. No Dai Li standing by to his aid, just him. So, it is Long Feng's intention to keep the Avatar and his friends here. The Earth King said to himself. Yes, about a week ago I saw the Avatar's flying bison flying in the direction of a high-frequency sound. A voice came from behind his throne. I want you to help the Avatar find his bison, and I have another mission for you. The Earth King said in a monotone. And that would be my lord? The voice asked again. When you get the chance, take out Long Feng. He's defying my position as the king and is working as if he's the puppeteer. But in reality, it's me. The Earth King said, fully knowing that there were Dai Li agents in the ceiling. He tapped the arm of his throne sending a message in Morse code. Have they gone to relay my plan? Earth King tapped, a few taps were heard. Yes, they've gone to tell Long Feng. A message read. Good. Earth King said. How's training with that little blind girl and Water Tribe boy? The Earth King asked in a cheery voice. They're progressing faster than I thought. Sokka is already showing a great talent in throwing knives and stars, most likely from his impressive skill with the boomerang. Toph is already inventing metalbending for a sub-element. The voice now known as Naruto's voice explained. Metal huh? That's an interesting sub-element. The Earth King said. Yes, it is. And speaking of which, how powerful is the Avatar? Earth King asked. At the moment, he is by far the weakest Avatar in history, both physically and mentally. He holds onto the air nomad concept that there's good in everyone. Naruto said behind the throne. Do you think that there is forgiveness for the Fire Lord, your uncle? Earth King asked critically. Please don't refer to that man as my uncle. He was nothing of the sort and should be dealt with accordingly. Naruto replied to his king's question. You sound just like him, you know. He replied to his Fang. He didn't get a reply and noticed Naruto left. Zuko and Iroh's apartment. Zuko entered his uncle's room. Iroh is seen packing his clothes. So, I was thinking about names for my new tea shop. How about the Jasmine Dragon? It's dramatic, poetic, has a nice ring to it. Iroh said. Zuko wasn't listening, he just showed Iroh the flyer. The Avatar is here in Ba Sing Se, and he's lost his bison. Zuko informs Iroh, who grabs the flyer. We have a chance for a new life here. Iroh sighed disappointingly. Zuko wasn't paying attention, he was too busy looking out the window. If you start stirring up trouble, we could lose all the good things that are happening for us. Iroh warned his nephew. Good things that are happening for you? Have you ever thought that I want more from life than a nice apartment and a job serving tea? Zuko asked. There is nothing wrong with a life of peace and prosperity. I suggest you think about what it is that you want from your life and why. Iroh suggested. I want my destiny. Zuko said. What that means is up to you. Zuko leaves to pack his clothes. The tea weevil. No, that's stupid. Iroh chastised his poor suggestion. At Naruto's house. Naruto appeared in his underground house. He walked to his kitchen and poured a shot of baijiu. He downed it, sighing at the hot aftertaste. He then drank the whole bottle before using his strength to crush the bottle, then used sandbending to replenish his only empty gourd. Sokka, I know you're there. Naruto called out. A body fell from one of the hanging hammocks and landed roughly. Oh, hi, how long did you know I was up there? Sokka asked. Naruto stomped his heel, forcing Toph to be pushed out of the corner. Katara was thrown into the living area from his hallway, and Aang fell from the ceiling. Your guys' feet stink. Naruto insulted. In the corner, Toph went to smell her feet as did the rest, and their heads were immediately thrown back by the suicidal smell. We're here to ask for your help. Katara said. Aang walked up to Naruto before bowing low. Naruto, I'm sorry for how I've been acting. I understand if you wouldn't want to help find Appa, but please can you help us? Aang pleaded. I can't say no, my king gave me orders to help find your bison. Naruto said. This brought hope to the eyes of Team Avatar. And besides, I have a suspicion who took your flying buffalo. Said Naruto. Sokka shivered as well as Toph and Katara, and Aang cheered. Woo-oh. Aang and Katara yipped, dancing in a circular motion with joined hands. Sokka, meet me in the dojo. Same as you, Toph. He then pointed to Aang and Katara. We're gonna be down in the dojo for a while, so you guys will be spending a lot of downtime together, so please, no sex on the hammocks. I've been burned before. Naruto said before walking down the steps of his basement dojo, leaving a blushing Aang and Katara while Sokka was snickering. Toph looked oblivious. What's sex? Toph asked, confused as heck. Oh great heavens. Dojo. Toph came into the room with Sokka trailing her. Naruto, what's sex? Toph asked. Naruto looked blankly at Sokka. She got curious when you brought it up. Sokka said, and Naruto slapped his forehead. Well, Toph, sex is. 10 minutes later. Naruto just finished explaining sex to Toph Bifong. She was red, yup, that's about it. She was an atomic red. She looked between Sokka and Naruto. So that's what those two badger moles were doing, they were having sex. She pointed out with a blush. And what were those vibrations I felt on the mountain at the Serpent's Pass? Hey. We were just talking and I left. Defended Sokka with crossed arms. Suki, as in from Kyoshi Island? Naruto asked. Yeah, she was my girl, she's just a friend. Sokka finally said, and Naruto chuckled. Okay, sure. Naruto said. Sokka rounded on him, pointing accusingly at him. How do you know her? Sokka asked, truly curious. I went to Kyoshi Island to get more information about Nani Kyoshi, and I met her. We kinda started dating, but we ended things when I left. Naruto explained. Sokka nodded. It didn't seem Toph was listening because the question she asked Naruto was a little dumb. And what about you? Are you gay? Toph asked accusingly, sending a pointed finger his way. No, idiot. I just said I had a girlfriend on Kyoshi Island. I also had a girlfriend from the Fire Nation. We broke up though. Well, I broke up with her. Her name's Ty Lee. Naruto said, and with that all hell broke loose. Next day. Team Avatar plus Naruto were in the city. They were throwing up flyers, but at a slow rate because they were all bunched together. We'll split up to cover more area. Toph, I guess you should just come with me. Sokka said, unintentionally insulting Toph. Why? Because you think I can't put up posters on my own? She asked a bit peeved. She angrily took the paintbrush of glue from Sokka and threw glue on the wall. She slams up a poster, but it is backward. It's upside down, isn't it? Toph asked embarrassedly. And backwards. Naruto quipped. I'll just go with Sokka. Toph said. Yeah, you do that. Naruto said. He jumped off the ground with the assistance of an earth boost and landed on the roof of a nearby house. He was scouting out the area and looking for clues. The rest went their separate ways, with Toph following Sokka. Katara was in an open square putting up a poster on a stone plinth near a flowing water stream. Suddenly, behind her, she hears a familiar voice call out. Katara. The voice came from a shady alley, emerging from an alleyway at the edge of the square. Katara wheels around with a startled gasp. The figure walked closer. It turned out to be Jet, who was smiling confidently. I think I can help you. He said with a smirk. Katara's shocked blush transforms into a look of pure outrage. With a sweep of her arms, she bends up water from a lake directly at him while screaming in rage. Jet looks at the wave in fright. Katara, I've changed. Jet shouted. The wave hit Jet, sending him back quite a ways, bending up remaining water from the wave. Tell it to some other girl, Jet. She yells before turning the water to ice, which sends Jet back to a wall. Jet unsheathes his blades and blocks the ice with his swords. I don't want to fight you, I'm here to help. Jet said before throwing his swords down and reached for something behind his back. Katara quickly fires more ice crystals, which pin him to the wall. The rest of the team approaches. Katara, what is it? Sokka asked his little sister. Jet's back. Katara said calmly. We can't trust anything Jet says. Katara snarled. But we don't even know why he's here. Sokka said. I don't care why he's here, whatever the reason is, it can't be good. Katara assumed. I'm here to help you find Appa. Jet told her, opening his hand and revealing he is holding a missing Appa poster for proof. Katara, we have to give him a chance. Aang told her, a nervous bead of sweat dripping down his head. I swear, I've changed. I was a troubled person and I let my anger get out of control, but I don't even have the gang now. I've put all that behind me. Jet explained. You're lying. She yelled in defiance. Toph walks up to Jet and feels the wall he is pinned against. He's not lying. She said calmly. How can you tell? Sokka asked. I mean, it's hard to believe a blind girl who just met the psycho jerk and saying that he's not lying about having his squad. I can feel his breathing and heartbeat. When people lie, there's a physical reaction. He's telling the truth. Toph told the gang. Katara, we don't have any leads. If Jet says he can take us to Appa, we have to check it out. Aang told her, completely forgetting that Kid Feng's info about the Sky Bison. Alright. She points and looks angrily at Jet. But we're not letting you out of our sight. She sneered, angrily stabbing her finger at Jet once more for emphasis, eyes narrowed. Jet enters a dimly lit warehouse with the rest of the gang, except for Naruto, he still hasn't shown up. The warehouse sits empty except for a few sacks and a pile of canvas and rope. This is the place I heard about. Jet told the group. Aang didn't look or sound pleased. There's nothing here. Katara prepared to waterbend in defense. If this is a trap. Jet cut her off. I told you, I work nearby. Two guys were talking about some giant furry creature they had, I figured it must be Appa. Jet informed. Toph was off to the side looking at the ground. She stepped on a white tuft of fur and picked it up. He was here. She shows them the clump of Appa's fur. Aang grabbed the fur and examined it, he looked longingly at the fur. We missed him. He said sadly. An old white-haired man with a push broom crosses behind the slumping Aang. They took that big thing yesterday. The old sweeping man said. Aang straightens with a shocked look. Shipped him out to some island. About time, I've been cleaning up fur and various leavings all day. The old man said. Aang swiftly moves closer to the man. What island? Where's Appa? He jumped around excitedly. Foreman said some rich royal type on Whaletail Island bottom up. Guess for a zoo or such. Though, could be the meat that'd be good. The old sweeping man grinned with a bit of drool coming out of his mouth. We've got to get to Whaletail Island. Aang spoke seriously before becoming clueless. Where's Whaletail Island? Sokka was by himself looking at the world map dejectedly. Far, very far. He puts the map on the ground as they all gather round. Here it is. It's near the South Pole, almost all the way back home. He points to the place on the map. Aang, it will take us weeks just to get to the tip of the Earth Kingdom. And then we'll need to find a boat to get to the island. Katara voiced their predicament. I don't care. We have a chance to find Appa. We have to try. Aang said determinedly. Must be nice to visit an island. I haven't had a vacation for years. Old man groaned while sweeping more hair. Don't you have some more hair to clean up? Katara asked with an angry scowl. Shuffle on, I get you. No more need for old Sweepy said, shuffling on like always. You're right on, right now our first concern has to be finding Appa. We can come back when we have him. Katara showed her support, resting a hand on the airbender's shoulder. Alright, let's get moving. Sokka called but was stopped. Wait, where's Naruto? Sokka asked, a sand cloud appeared with Naruto stepping out of the cloud. Jet's eyes widened when he saw him, but Naruto shook his head in his direction. Naruto. Sokka exclaimed. Naruto grasped Jet's shoulder with a nod. It's good to see you again. Jet nodded. Katara pointed to both of them with wide eyes. How do you know each other again? She asked. Naruto pointed to Jet. I met Jet a while back, I saved him from a Fire Nation raid, he could have got killed in cold blood. Naruto said. Now come on. I'm helping you find your bison. Naruto informed the group. You're right, we need to go to Whaletail Island. Aang told, and with that, Naruto, Sokka and Aang left. I'll come with you. Jet said, but Katara stopped him. We don't need your help. She huffed. Jet rounded on her with a confused look. Why wouldn't you trust me? He asked before walking after Naruto, Sokka and Aang. Gee, I wonder. She voiced sarcastically. After Jet walks away, Toph asked. Was this guy your boyfriend or something? What, no. She replied with an angry, embarrassed blush. Toph smiled. I can tell you're lying. Katara then runs away from her. Back within the city, Team Avatar plus Naruto and Jet were seen walking around. We can take the train out to the wall, but then we'll have to walk. Naruto told half of his plan. Don't worry, on the way back we'll be flying. He promised excitedly. We're finally leaving Ba Sing Se. Toph spreads her arms outward in celebration. Worst city ever. Smellerbee and Longshot appear in the walk out of an alley and notice Jet. Jet. Smellerbee shouted. Katara looked angrily at Jet. I thought you said you didn't have your gang anymore. She reminded his last phrase. Jet turned to look at Smellerbee, confused. I don't. Smellerbee runs up to Jet and hugs him. We were so worried. How did you get away from the Dai Li? Smellerbee asked worriedly. The Dai Li? Katara asked, shocked. I don't know what she's talking about. Jet told the group. He got arrested by the Dai Li a couple of weeks ago. We saw them drag him away. Smellerbee told the rest. Why would I be arrested? I've been living peacefully in the city. Jet said confusedly. Toph placed a hand on the ground between Jet and Smellerbee. This doesn't make any sense. They're both telling the truth. Toph said. That's impossible. Katara replied to her confusion. No, it's not. Toph can't tell who's lying because they both think they're telling the truth. Jet's been brainwashed. Sokka exclaimed, pointing at Jet. That's crazy. It can't be. Stay away from me. He shouted, throwing up his hands in defense when the group began surrounding him. The Dai Li agent was walking the streets of Ba Sing Se's red light district. A figure clad in black wear and a blue Oni mask runs by and purposely bumps into the Dai Li agent. Out of my way, skinny. The blue spirit yelled and ran. The agent prepares to use his rock glove but pauses when the disguised man turns into an alley. The agent runs to the alley and sees a figure that appears to be him. He fires his rock gloves at the figure's chest and head, knocking off the stuffed figure's head and knocking it down. Dai Li agent looked confused and dropped his guard. Huh? There is the whisper of a drawn blade behind him and the blue spirit captures him and places one of his swords to the agent's neck. If you don't want to end up like him, you'll do what I say. He said icily. The next day back with Team Avatar Naruto's house. Team Avatar, Longshot, Smellerbee and Naruto who were all surrounding a seated Jet. The Dai Li must have sent Jet to mislead us and that janitor was part of their plot, too. Katara theorized. I bet they have Appa here in the city. Maybe he's in the same place they took Jet. Where did they take you? Aang asked. Nowhere. I don't know what you're talking about. Jet stammered out nervously, sweat pouring down the side of his head. We need to find a way to jog his real memories. Aang said, a hand on his chin in a thinking posture. Sokka looked at his sister teasingly, wiggling his eyebrow. Maybe Katara should kiss him. That should bring something back. He teased. For a split second Katara blushed before turning into a scowl. Maybe you should kiss him, Sokka. Katara countered with crossed arms. Hey, just an idea. He held his hands up in defense. The bad one. Aang muttered childishly. Sokka in turn scowled. Ooh, wait. I've got it. Sokka plucks a straw from the couch, pokes it into Jet's mouth in trademark fashion, and regards him thoughtfully. I don't think it's working. Jet said before he spits it out in Sokka's face. Toph came up with an idea. Try to think of something from your past that triggers your emotions. Toph said. Smellerbee thought of a memory. The Fire Nation. Remember what they did to your family. She said. Naruto was off to the side watching, looking at Jet calculatingly. He saw something familiar. He noticed Jet wouldn't look directly at him, like he was holding himself back. Close your eyes. Picture it. Katara said. Jet did what he was told, while sweat beads started to form on his forehead. His eyes suddenly snap wide open, and he sees images of himself at a younger age watching his town burning down, and Colonel Monkey looking back at him venomously. Jet threw his head forward to escape from that horrible nightmare. No. It's too painful. Jet said. Katara had sympathy for Jet at this moment. She and Sokka too lost their mother in a Fire Nation raid on the Southern Water Tribe. Maybe this will help. She said and took water from her pouch and put it around his ears, using healing to clear his mind. Jet looks up from the floor and sees an image of Long Feng standing above a lake. Long Feng stares at Jet, and Jet sinks down under the lake into an underground room. He sees an image of a Dai Li agent shining a spinning light in his face. They took me to a headquarters under the water. Like a lake. Jet told the group. Naruto's eyes widened at this statement. Why would the Dai Li want to take you to an underground lake? Sokka asked. Because it's a lake where they brainwash people who are paranoid about the war and the Fire Nation. Naruto said. The group turned their heads to Naruto. How'd you know that? Katara asked, perplexed that Naruto knew such information. Naruto sighed. In my life serving underneath the Earth King, I was given a mission, a recon mission to spy on Long Feng. I became a Dai Li agent, but I was led to Lake Laogai to see where my allegiance really lies. Naruto said. Jet stood up, knocking his seat over in the process. That's it. Lake Laogai. Jet exclaimed. In the Fire Nation. Menma was in the royal palace outside Azula's room. He was pacing back and forth with a nervous stride. He was contemplating if he should really do this. He started feeling bad about the other day when he just left their sleeping quarters without saying thank you and showed his gratitude to Azula. Oh come on, how hard can it be? Just knock and apologize to Azula and be on your way. He said out loud in a frustrated tone. Without him knowing, Azula was listening in on her side of the door, giggling to herself. She found it laughable and kinda cute. Come on. Apologize, just say I'm sorry. Azul. Before he finished his apology, Azula's door opened with Azula in a nightgown and her hair styled into a high ponytail. Menma was a loss for words. He began sputtering incoherent words with a small blush on his face. Azula smirked and struck a pose and said. If you keep staring I'll think you're trying to woo me with those amber hues. She said suggestively. Menma's blush grew, his hair matching his face. Regaining his posture, he lost his red complexion and held a confident face. Princess Azula, I'm here to apologize for my rude awakening the other day. It was wrong, I'm sorry. Menma bowed and disappeared in flames. That was a bit anticlimactic, don't ya think? Ty Lee asked, walking out of her room across the hall. Mai came out of her room just after her and had the same bleak expression. I would agree, but he's not one for expressing his feelings out in the open. Azula said. Mai leaned on her doorframe. He sounds like me. Mai said with Ty Lee nodding in agreement. Mai, I totally agree with you. Why did you never date him? Asked Ty Lee. Mai yawned, not caring about the question that much. I guess I never saw him that way. Mai said. Ladies, a word for our next mission. Azula called. Mai and Ty Lee left their rooms into Azula's. Ty Lee jumped on Azula's bed while Mai sat on a comfy chair. After Azula told her father about the failed mission to infiltrate Ba Sing Se, he theorized that she could masquerade as the Kyoshi warriors that they captured. My father and the war generals devised a plan for us to infiltrate Ba Sing Se. Azula said, standing in front of a mirror, putting stuff on her face. What's the plan? Ty Lee asked excitedly. Azula turned around, wearing the kabuki makeup the Kyoshi warriors wore. We'll disguise ourselves as the Kyoshi warriors. She smirked, a glint of mischief coming to his eyes. Ty Lee clapped enthusiastically. Mai just yawned. Hooray. Ty Lee squealed. Yay. Mai obliquely said. Lake Laogai. Naruto was leading Team Avatar and the freedom fighters along the shore of Lake Laogai. He uses his earthbending to bring up a slab of rock with an entrance. He moves the rock lid out the way with the same technique. They all look down at the tunnel and Momo flies away. They climb down the secret passage into the secret headquarters. Naruto checks to make sure the coast is clear and they walk down a long hallway. It's all starting to come back to me. Jet whispers but is still heard. Naruto and the group walk past a room where a member of the Dai Li was brainwashing a group of women. I'm Judy. Welcome to Ba Sing Se. The Dai Li agent said. The manipulated women robotically replied. I'm Judy. Welcome to Ba Sing Se. The Judy said in unison. We're so lucky to have our walls to create order. The agent said. We're so lucky to have our walls to create order. I think there might be a cell big enough to hold Appa up ahead. I think it's through here. Jet guessed, opening a passage to an empty room with a bunch of hanging chains attached to the ceiling. Naruto slipped into the ground, disappearing somewhat. They entered the room and the door closed suddenly behind them. Lights turn on, revealing the agents on the ceiling and Long Feng standing at attention. "Now that's something different," Sokka said. Long Feng smirked when he saw the avatar cornered. "You have made yourselves enemies of the state. Take them into custody," he said, and the Dai Li agents jump off the ceiling and surround them. Two agents fire rock gloves, but Toph breaks them up and sends the two agents flying through the air with rock pillars. Jet runs toward the agents and breaks two other gloves fired by agents with his swords and trips another. A full battle ensues. Aang deals with a pair of Dai Li agents. Sokka and Katara destroy two Dai Li gloves, but a second pair grabs them both. Toph saves them by creating a rock wall, and she raises the ground up. Toph knocks away the four Dai Li agents that attacked her, but a glove captures her from behind, and Jet swings by to free her. The agent fires his other rock glove, and Longshot fires an arrow, which destroys the glove. Jet jumps in front of Longshot to hold off more of their rock attacks. Long Feng escapes. Aang noticed him after knocking away two agents with airbending. Long Feng is escaping. Aang shouts, he and Jet gives chase. They head into another part of the headquarters with many pipes of all sizes sticking out of the walls, with some of them pouring out water, but are sealed in by Long Feng. "Alright, Avatar, you've caused me enough problems. This is your last chance if you want your bison back," he said with a grin. "You do have Appa. Tell me where he is," Aang yelled, swinging his staff with an air volley to come out. Long Feng sinks into the ground to evade the volley of air. "Agree to exit the city now, and I'll waive all charges against you and allow you to leave with your lost pet." Jet got into a fighting position. "You're in no position to bargain," Jet yelled, twirling his swords in rhythmic fashion. "Am I not?" Long Feng asked with a raised eyebrow and with a smirk. "You're definitely not." Aang pointed to Long Feng to intimidate him. "Jet, the Earth King has invited you to Lake Laogai," Long Feng said, his tone becoming hypnotic and setting off something in Jet. Close up to his eye, his iris dilates. "I am honored to accept his invitation." He turns to Aang and swings his sword. Aang dodges in time and flips backward. Jet comes running with an angry war cry. Out of nowhere a blur came out of the wall using earthbending and bumped into Long Feng, knocking him away into the wall and continuing his descent to Jet. The blur stopped Jet's double sword strike and stopped in front of him, his hood falling off his head, a head of blonde hair draping over his shoulders. The blonde kicked Jet in the chest, knocking him back quite a distance. "Avatar, find your bison," Naruto told Aang. Aang was a bit reluctant to listen seeing as Long Feng is quite the threatening foe, with Jet on top of that, he wasn't so confident with Naruto being able to handle that. "But what about you?" Aang asked, concerned. Naruto turned around and glared at Aang, before giving him a thumbs up. "I'll be okay, Jet will be fine, we'll meet you outside." Aang nodded and ran to the entrance and blasted the wall. "I see the king has made his move, sending you here, Naruto of the Fire Nation," Long Feng said. Naruto encased Long Feng in earth and turned his attention to Jet. "Jet, snap out of it," Naruto shouted to the freedom fighter. Jet connected his swords and threw them in Naruto direction before running after them. Naruto caught them and Jet kicked the blonde in the chest and retrieved his swords. "Remember who you are, you're an outlaw," Naruto said. This set a chord off in Jet, he got a glimpse of an old memory. Flashback 5 years ago. Jet was walking next to a younger looking Naruto. He wore a plain seaweed green top with shoulder pads, his hook swords on his back. He wore black pants with grey shoes and knee pads. Naruto had short blonde hair, just passing his eyes. He wore a black poncho with a hood built in, underneath he wore no shirt, he wore brown pants with grey wraps around his ankles and wrists. "Naruto, where are we going?" Jet asked, cautious about the terrain they found themselves in. They were in a forest with a lot of burnt trees surrounding a huge cave. There were some trees with leaves, but that was some. "I want you to meet some people," Naruto said. He opened the cave up with earthbending, and Jet saw a few people. "On guard," a boy dressed in navy armor shouted to his comrades. "Relax. It's me, I've brought a new recruit," Naruto sighed, running a hand in his hair. "Sensei. It is an honor to be in your presence once more," the boy sagely said. Naruto sighed again. "I was only gone for a month," the blonde said. "Again, it is an honor to be in your presence once more," the boy said again. "Oh yeah. The boss is back in the house," a buff man voiced happily, eating a rock for some apparent reason. "What's up, boss? Who's the new meat?" Another kid with black tied-up hair with a red strip of hair falling over his forehead asked roughly. "This is Jet, he's a skilled swordsman and will make a great adjustment to the team," Naruto said. "Jet, meet the outlaws," Naruto greeted. He then pointed to the black red-haired boy. "That's Blaze, meet Jet," Naruto introduced them. Blaze stalked up to Jet, studying him, noting that they were both the same height. Did you just say I'm stupid? Blaze asked, grabbing Jet by the collar, Jet responding in kind. He punched Blaze over. Get off, you jerk. Blaze wiped his mouth. Oh, now you said I'm an unwanted child, is that it? Huh? Blaze asked angrily, kicking Jet's legs from under him. They got up and personal, but Naruto kneed Jet in the gut before grabbing Blaze's arm and whipping over his shoulder on top of a gasping Jet, leaving Blaze winded. The big guy was laughing his butt off, finding it hilarious that the beepiest one was also the one that got thrown on his behind. Stop, Blaze, both of you. We're partners for a similar cause. Now introductions are still in order. Naruto said, picking up Blaze and Jet easily and placing them roughly on the ground. Now, meet. Sup, my name's Blaze, I was from the Fire Nation, but I left after my village was raided by my people. Blaze said with a snort. He shook Jet's hand. His hands are so rough and callous, these hands don't belong to someone who had a normal life. Blaze and Jet thought the same thought. Hey, I'm Jet, your new recruit. Jet grinned, completely forgetting about their little squabble. Jet, that loud guy right there is Hound, Jet. Naruto pointed to a man in his early 20s with brown tied-up hair and emerald eyes. He wore a poncho cloak with a built-in hood and brown trousers under the cloak. He also has brownish-gray wraps around his wrists and calves. He is an excellent earthbender, he primarily uses a hammer in correlation with his earthbending. Sup, bub. Hound said, chewing a rock. Blah hears things, even in a room by himself. Hound told Jet he did a silent O. And that guy who's wearing the armor is Susanoo. Naruto told Jet. It is good to meet you, friend, I heard from sensei that you are skilled with the sword, as am I. We should train. Susanoo grinned while bowing, Jet grabbed his forearm in an honorable shake. Susanoo wore a Kabuto helmet and DM-style chest armor paired with shoulder guards, sleeves, a skirt, thigh protection, and shin guards. He also donned 2 katanas, one strapped to his back and the other strapped to his waist. He had brown hair, chocolate skin with dark blue eyes. He also wore a black poncho with a built-in hood. It's great to meet you. And you, Hound. Jet said excitedly. Hound grinned, puffing on some earth in the shape of a stick with some brown stuff inside. Haha, the bugs got some spunk to him. Hound said with a proud laugh. Blaze has creamy skin with jet black hair, tied up in a topknot. He wears Fire Nation armor that fits his size swimmingly. He had on the same cloak as Susanoo, Hound, and Naruto. He may have left his home, but he'll still embrace his culture. So how about it, you wanna join, bub? Hound asked Jet, who thought of it. Yeah, sure. It sounds like it'll be fun. Jet had a black cloak thrown on him, from Blaze. We all wear matching cloaks or ponchos however the boss puts it. Blaze said, he coughed and flames shot out his mouth. Now listen, we're gonna be a team for a while, until we disband. But until then, me, Blaze, Hound, Susanoo, Jet are the outlaws. Naruto said, everyone cheered. Flashback end. While Jet was remembering this, Long Feng broke out of his earth prison and stood in the same spot he arrived in. Do it. Do it now. Long Feng ordered. Jet fires a sword at Long Feng, which misses. Long Feng counters with an uplifted rock to strike Jet down, but Naruto stops its descent and Jet rolled over his back and threw his other sword, which Long Feng jumped into a huge pipe. Thank you, Naruto. It's good to be back again. Jet hugged Naruto, who hugged back slightly and pushed him off. None of that mushy crap. Naruto said. Let's get out of here. Naruto said with a smile and Jet returned it. Scene break. Another part of Lake Laogai. While all this was happening in another cell, Appa was seen chained down to the floor when suddenly his door opened, revealing the blue spirit. Expecting someone else? He asked Appa, who growled heatedly. The door opens and the blue spirit gets into a fighting stance but lowers his guard when Iroh enters. Uncle? The spirit said confusedly. Iroh stood there unfazed, stroking his beard. So, the blue spirit. I wonder who could be behind that mask, Iroh wondered calculatedly. The man under the mask sighs and takes off the mask, revealing Prince Zuko. What are you doing here? Zuko asked his uncle. I was just about to ask you the same thing. What do you plan to do now that you've found the Avatar's bison? Iroh asked. Zuko had never really thought of that, he had just thought finding him would solve all the answers. Keep him locked in our new apartment. Should I go put on a pot of tea for him? Iroh asked sarcastically, but Zuko took it seriously. First I have to get it out of here. Zuko told Iroh, who sighed frustratedly. And then what? You never think these things through. Iroh exclaimed angrily. He wanted Zuko to hear this, he needed to hear this. This is exactly what happened when you captured the Avatar at the North Pole. You had him and then you had nowhere to go. He yelled. I would have figured something out. Zuko replied back, fully facing his uncle before turning back. No. If his friends hadn't found you, you would have frozen to death. He yelled to his nephew. I know my own destiny, uncle. Zuko sneered heatedly, his fingers shooting sparks of electricity due to his rage boiling. Is it your own destiny, or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you? Iroh asked. Zuko thought of this, was he doing it for his father or himself? Stop it, uncle. I have to do this. I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you, and what do you want? Iroh asked in finality. Zuko screams loudly, throwing down his swords and blue spirit mask down on the wet floors. Scene break end outside Lake Laogai. They found an exit back to the beach. As they make their escape, several Dai Li agents jump out from behind them. You think we can outrun them? Sokka asked, speeding up his stride, his speed training showing its results as how he was running with Ong at similar speeds. I don't think it's gonna matter. The Baldbender said. Another group of Dai Li agents, plus Long Feng, stand in front of them. All the agents box them in, lifting up the ground on both sides. Dai Li agents stand on all three walls. Momo flies to Ong. What is it, Momo? He asked the lemur. Momo flies to the sky. Suddenly, Appa flies down with Naruto and the freedom fighters on his back. Naruto had earth on his fingertips and used them as bullets and shot them at Long Feng, who jumped out of the way. Appa. He yells happily. Appa smashes through the rock walls, smacking the Dai Li agents with his tail. Naruto jumps off Appa with the freedom fighters and uses earthbending to knock other nearby agents off a cliff and into the lake. Jet confronts Long Feng. Sup, long bastard. Jet sneered hatefully. I can handle you by myself. Long Feng charged at Jet and went to kick him, but Jet hooked his leg before spinning him and throwing him, skipping into the lake. Jet throws Long Feng's shoe from his dual hook swords. The team cheers and they run toward Appa. Yeah. Appa. Sokka yelled cheerfully. Ong happily cried. I missed you, buddy. Appa closes his eyes. A teary-eyed Katara somberly looks over Jet. Jet. Katara called out. Jet looked away from his conversation with Naruto. Yeah, what's up? Jet asked but was enveloped in a hug. Jet hugged her back with a happy expression. Katara pulls back before kissing his cheek. Thank you, you've really changed. She said with a blush on her cheeks. In the corner of his eyes Ong saw Naruto patting Appa softly. So, you're the flying bison. Naruto commented and got licked for his efforts. It's good to meet you too, you big ugly beast. He smiled, he had always had a soft spot for animals of any kind. Naruto, thank you for helping us. For helping me. Ong showed his gratitude. I didn't do it for you, but you're welcome. Naruto accepted the thank you with stride. Sokka. Yes. Sokka stood at attention. Toph. Naruto called out for her attention. What? She said lazily. He snapped his fingers and pointed in front of him. Front and center. They did so. I'm not going to be teaching you guys anymore. Now that I've finished my mission as you escort guide and I found your bison, I'll be returning to my regular duties as the Fang of the Earth King. I hope you can understand. Naruto said before walking off. Sokka and Toph hug him from behind, crushing him in the process. Thank you, Master Naruto. They both shouted in unison, feeling a bit left out. The team all gathered in a group hug. Back with Zuko and Iroh. Zuko and Iroh emerge from the Dai Li headquarters. You did the right thing, nephew. Zuko looks at his blue spirit mask as Iroh rests a hand on its shoulder. Leave it behind. Zuko walks to the edge and tosses the mask into the water, where it slowly sinks to the bottom of the lake. The blue spirit is the manifestation of Zuko's rage. He uses this persona to seek vengeance on someone who humiliates his uncle. He robbed and beat people up and stole their food. It's a multi-dimensional symbol, but it seems to align with Zuko's darker, desperate, almost obsessive nature. The blue spirit is what I wanted, a fighting, killing machine. That's why turning away from that idea himself at first is marked by him throwing down the mask. There were two meanings in Iroh's statement, leave it behind. The first was leaving behind the symbolic gesture, leaving behind your emotional mask, leaving all the guilt, pain and anger. Then there is the other meaning, leave the physical form, let that mask sink to the lake, to be forgotten, the lake as in his heart, let the negativity sink to the darkest depths of your heart, to be forgotten. Forever. The group hug disbanded, leaving a heavily breathing Naruto. He ran a hand through his hair, before untying it, shaking his head to get rid of all the straw-like pieces of hair. Katara watched this happen with fascination, she wanted to touch his hair. Ong intently jumped on Appa after the hug was broken. I missed you more than you'll ever know, buddy. Ong said. Appa growled out a reply. Momo flies into Appa to hug him too. Appa licks Ong, which causes Ong to laugh again. Sokka approaches Katara, Toph, Jet, Smellerbee, Longshot and Naruto. Look, we escaped from the Dai Li. We got Appa back. I'm telling you, we should go to the Earth King now and tell him our plan. We're on a roll. Sokka said. Naruto was placed on a rock while Katara was fixing up his hair. 1 good hour after weeks of trouble isn't much of a roll. Katara said, bending a bit of water and laying it out of Naruto's long hair, wetting it so it'll be easier to tame. I actually agree with Sokka on this one, the Earth King is a reasonable Mao. He yelped when Katara pulled his hair hard. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pull so hard. Katara murmured. Naruto flicked a pebble to her head and stood fully up. We can build on it. If we want to invade the Fire Nation when the eclipse happens, we'll need the Earth King's support. Sokka told his plan to get the Earth King's support with the invasion plan. What makes you think we'll get it? I don't know if you've noticed, but things don't usually go that smoothly for our little gang. Toph said, blowing some hair out of her face, but it just flopped out of the way for a moment and returned. I know, but I've got a good feeling about this. This time will be different. Sokka said, grinning from ear to ear. Katara looked at him blankly. You're gonna get Naruto to help, aren't you? She asked blankly. Sokka sweat dropped with crossed arms. I think we got a good shot at this. Sokka said sheepishly. Sokka, Long Feng is in control of the city. His conspiracy with the Dai Li is too powerful. I think we should just keep flying and leave this horrible place behind us. Katara said. She sat on a rock next to Jet coincidentally. No, this is your best shot at going to the Earth King for help. Naruto said. Sokka laughed sarcastically in Katara's face. I'm with sweetness. I've seen enough of Ba Sing Se. She then raises her arms and opens her eyes wide to get her point across. And I can't even see. She laughed. Aang flies into the shot and notices Katara sitting awfully close to Jet. His jealousy rose when he saw her scooting a bit closer, Jet not so oblivious to the motion. But now that we have Appa back, there's nothing stopping us from telling the Earth King the truth. About the conspiracy and the war. Aang said cheerfully. Sokka wrapped an arm around Aang. See? Aang's with me. Sokka said and both of them smiled wildly. It's the whole reason we came here in the first place. We have to try. Katara thought for a moment and came to the conclusion of. Well, I guess if the Earth King knew the truth, things could change. Katara smiled. Off to the side Naruto was speaking with Jet about something. Sokka and Aang smiled. Toph stood with a scowl. I don't trust the new positive Sokka. She said before pointing to Sokka in an accusing manner. Long Feng brainwashed you, didn't he? She accused. Aang noticed Naruto walking off with the freedom fighters. Naruto. Jet. Aren't you coming with us? Aang asked. I've already completed my mission and that was to get you to your bison. Now I'm going to the palace to continue my duty to protect the Earth King as his Fang. Naruto said. During this mishap 3 Dai Li ships fired 3 boulders from each individual ship. Watch out. Sokka screamed, diving to the ground. I can't take them all out. Aang shouted to everyone. You won't have to. Naruto and Toph yelled back. Toph bent a sharp column of earth to strike the center of one of the boulders, doing so split the rock in half straight down the middle. Naruto opened several gourds and sand flew out of the contaminants, it wrapped itself around one of the boulders and crushed it. Aang destroyed the earth with a wave of his hand, he then slammed his staff downwards, in the Dai Li ship's direction, halving one, while the others survived. That was probably the Dai Li searching for us. Sokka said to Katara. Katara thinks for a moment before looking at Sokka. Let's fly. Katara said determinedly. Everyone jumped on Appa, some waited for the rest. Aren't you guys coming? Sokka asked. No, we're thinking of staying out for this one. Jet said, resting a hand on Smellerby's shoulder. We're gonna start over. Jet said proudly. A teary-eyed Smellerby hugged Jet. Longshot gave Jet a meaningful stare, which was reciprocated with a nod from Jet. I'll meet you guys there, I have to talk with Jet for a bit. Naruto said, walking off with Jet and the freedom fighters. Yip. Aang said the secret code to get his sky bison to fly. They fly toward the palace, now with no saddle, holding on to Appa's fur for dear life, especially Toph. Naruto along with Jet, Smellerby and Longshot were walking on the shore in a comfortable silence. Smellerby was especially close to Jet, Longshot was at the rear in case of attacks. So, Jet, I heard some rumors going around. Naruto finally broke the silence. Jet tensed up for a second before relaxing, placing a weed in his mouth. Oh, yeah. What rumors? Jet grinned, he thought that all his heroic acts had finally got notice of his boss. Naruto ducked low and swept Jet's legs. Smellerby did a somersault over Naruto and went to back kick him, but Naruto grabbed her leg and threw Smellerby into the lake. He moved his head out of the way of an arrow, courtesy of Longshot, he grabbed the arrow and fired it back at Longshot who moved out of its trajectory. Naruto stepped on Jet's chest. I heard that you blew up a dam to wipe out a town of innocents. Naruto said menacingly. Jet tried to push Naruto off but couldn't. I did, I made a mistake. And if I could, I would take back all the mishaps that I caused. Jet exclaimed. Naruto got off his chest and held his hand out. We're all not perfect, we make mistakes, but we can atone for them with the right intentions, right? Naruto asked. Jet grabbed his offering hand and got to his feet. I have a mission for you, Jet. Naruto said after helping Smellerby out of the lake with earthbending. "What is it, Naruto?" Jet asked. Naruto pulled him to the side and told him the plan. Smellerbee and Longshot tried listening in but got shut out by Naruto's earth wall. "That's what I want you to do," Naruto said to Jet. But what if some of them didn't make it or if they don't want to?" Jet asked, somewhat shaken up. "Trust me, they'll be there. Some of them are actually still together," Naruto said. Jet looked down, somewhat saddened. "I feel bad for betraying Katara, Sokka, and Aang a while back. The past is in the past. It's time to look towards the future," the blonde man said. Jet chuckled. "You sound like Susanoo, but I'll complete the mission," Jet said. "Can I bring Smellerbee and Longshot?" Jet asked. "I'd prefer you don't, but go ahead. It's nearly the end of the world, so we might as well get as much help as we possibly can," Naruto said. Jet hugged the blonde. He patted the smaller teen's back slightly before he removed himself from Jet. He jumped high in the air before bringing his heel down, creating a large hole tunnel. "Follow this tunnel, it'll lead you out of the Earth Kingdom. Trust your instincts and trust each other, you have to make it out quickly. The walls will sooner or later collapse on top of you. Get going." He was then enveloped in a sand cloud, and when the cloud dissipated, Naruto was nowhere to be seen. But Team Avatar. "Can we please buy a new saddle? Riding bareback is terrifying." Toph whined, burying her face in Appa's back. They start getting closer to the palace. "There it is. That whole thing is the palace. The Earth King's chamber should be in the center." Sokka voiced his hypothesis. "We have to be careful. Long Fang's probably warned the king that we're coming," Katara said. Sokka sent her a side glance. "Don't forget, we got Naruto on our side, he's the Earth King's trusted soldier," Sokka said. Aang noticed Sokka's arms, they seemed bigger. "Hey Sokka. Have you been working out?" Aang asked. Sokka smirked and dragged a finger under his nose, childishly. He flexed his biceps, the veins on his arms convulsing slightly. "HMPT, yeah, you know, that training with Naruto finally showing its results, am I right?" Sokka asked beepily. He flew off Appa's back by flexing his arms. Katara bent her water to grab his flailing arm and pulled him back. "Are we ready to work now?" Katara asked angrily. Sokka nodded meekly. Getting his composure back, Sokka went to his happy-go-lucky self. "If you ask me, I think we're just gonna sail right in," and a giant rock is what stopped his sentence. The rock almost, nearly hit them out of the sky. "Or maybe we could just send him a letter," Sokka suggested but got whipped on the head, courtesy of Katara. "What was that?" Toph asked. "Oh, it was nothing, just flying rocks were about to knock us out of the sky." Sokka screamed the last part. Sokka turned a calculated eye to the flying earth. Time seemed to slow down slightly. Sokka calculated the speed of the incoming boulder to be 70 miles per hour. With that in mind, he devised a plan. "Aang, fly Appa into a spiral motion while we're over the boulder, throw the boulder straight back. We're getting into that palace." Sokka gave his orders. Listening to his instincts was always the safest option, so they listened to it now. "Appa, yip yip," Aang shouted. Appa roared and looped around the flying boulder, and Aang used earthbending to take command of its trajectory and threw the boulder back at the soldier's feet. Landing down, Team Avatar jumped off the sky bison. Sokka ran to an officer that was on ostrichers. He threw his boomerang, cutting the rear billet off. The man flipped over, and Sokka kicked him in the face, straight off his horse. He mounted the creature and caught his boomerang and pointed the boomerang towards the palace. "Attack!" he roared. Aang and Toph blocked incoming rocks from hitting Appa. Katara used the water whip technique to hit the soldiers on the flanking sides. Sokka jumped off the horse, unsheathing his machete in a reverse grip. He performed a 360-degree twist, slicing the belts off 2 Earth Kingdom guards, their pants falling down. He executed a double kick in conjunction with a back handspring. He then jumped back on the horse. "Faster. Go," he shouted, hitting the horse's butt. When he reached the right distance, he hopped off his ostrichers and began taking 3 earthbenders out with relative ease to the onlookers. The rest of Team Avatar had their mouths agape. Never in their lives had they seen felt, in Toph's case, blind cough. Sokka show such remarkable skill in hand-to-hand combat. They broke out of their stupor when they saw Sokka get bombarded with earth, a smokescreen covering their eyes. Sokka walked out of the dust cloud, covered in scratches and dirt. He moved his head as a rock came whistling past his face. Too slow, he pulled out 8 kunai, 1 in between each finger. He tossed them with precise accuracy. He lodged the kunais into the capes the guards were wearing, pinning them to the wall nearest to them. Sokka sees a platoon of earth wielders. Aang slammed his staff down, releasing an earth-like wave. Sokka jumped over it, but the earth platoon was destroyed. Team Avatar reaches Sokka, standing with him side by side. They continue toward the Earth King's palace. More guards appear and launch earth cubes at the gang. Toph and Aang use earthbending to block the attacks, while Katara uses waterbending to subdue the guards. The water whip hits 2 guards, leaving them groaning. "Sorry," she shouts. Katara turns around and strikes down more guards with her waterbending, though closes her right eye in a sympathetic flinch for a moment as she does so. As more guards rush toward them in an attempt to halt Team Avatar's progress, Toph uses her earthbending to flip the tiles of the walkway, trapping them between them and ensuring a clear passage for the team. "Sorry. We just need to get through to see the Earth King," she told the hurt soldiers, as if it was a valid point to whip them. More guards appear on the opposite end of a bridge and launch two giant statues at them. Toph and Aang create an earth igloo to block the statues. Katara creates an ice ramp to jump to the other side of the bridge and water whips the guards into the water. Aang freezes them in the water as the rest all jump across. More surface-to-air rocks appear as guards are coming down a giant staircase. Toph uses earthbending to change the stairs into a ramp, causing them all to fall. She and Aang use earthbending to escalate themselves up the stairs. "Seriously, we're actually on your guys' side," Sokka told the attacking guards. He threw his boomerang and hit the guard over the head, his head hitting the floor in a painful smack. He paused for a moment. "Sorry." More guards come and Aang and Toph push them away with earthbending. "In there." Sokka called out his order, pointing towards the palace gates. He kicked the doors in as they entered the palace altogether. They come to an area with 3 doors. More guards appear and Toph easily defeats them all. "Toph, which way to the Earth King?" Sokka asked, ducking out of the way of a mini boulder. He threw his trusty boomerang that took out that guard. "How should I know? I'm still voting we leave Ba Sing Se," she complained. Toph defeats more guards while Sokka opens the doors to find the Earth King. The first room is empty, as is the second was also empty. Sokka then bursts into a third room, startling a woman. "Burglar?" She screams while trying to run, trips, and falls flat on her face. "Sorry. Wrong door." Sokka apologized sheepishly, with a scratch on his head. They then come across a big door. Sokka whistled. "Now that's gotta be it." He ran towards the humongous door and dramatically kicked the door down with a battle cry, or so he thought. The door didn't move, it didn't get blasted off its hinges like he'd hoped. He tried pushing the door open, to no avail. Aang assisted him, throwing the door off its hinges with a wave off his staff. "A little warning next time," Sokka yelled to his airbending friend. Earth King's palace. They arrive in the Earth King's chamber with Kuei sitting on his throne. Long Feng and his Dai Li agent stand in their way. The team takes fighting stances against them. "We need to talk to you," Aang said to Kuei, the Earth King. Long Feng turns to face the Earth King. "They're here to overthrow you," he said skeptically. "No, we're on your side. We're here to help," Sokka told the Earth King in a desperate tone. "You have to trust us." Earth King stood up and told Team Avatar with a rising aggravated tone. "You invade my palace, lay waste to all my guards, break down my fancy door, and you expect me to trust you?" He listed off all their wrongdoings. "He has a good point," Toph said. "If you are on my side, then drop your weapons and stand down," Kuei ordered them sternly. They look at each other for a moment. Aang drops his staff, Katara puts her water whip back in her water skin, Sokka drops his machete, and Toph drops the boulder she is levitating. Aang smiles brightly. "See? We're friends, your earthiness," he said with what respect he had. Gives a slight nervous chuckle. The king says nothing and just continues to frown grimly. Long Feng signals the Dai Li to cuff their arms with rock gloves. "Detain the assailants." The Dai Li rushed behind Team Avatar. "But we dropped our weapons. We're your allies," Sokka said. "Make sure the Avatar and his friends never see daylight again." The king looks at his advisor in shock. "Oh, so you're the Avatar Naruto has been telling me about," Kuei said in a jovial tone, while pointing at Sokka for emphasis. Sokka nudged his head to Aang. No. Him," the Water Tribe member said, struggling to break out of the. Aang effortlessly breaks free of his earth cuffs and raises his arms. "Over here." He made his presence known before the earth cuffs reattaches his hands. "What does it matter, your highness? They're enemies of the state," Long Feng said, wondering if Kuei was going to go in with his plan to dispatch him. "But it seems I know who is and who isn't enemies of the state," the Earth King said seriously, turning a critical eye on Long Feng. "You seem to think I am a fool, Long Feng," the Earth King said, icily. Long Feng jumped back from an fist that emerged from the ground, aiming to strike down the advisor. "What do you think you are doing?" Long Feng asked his highness. A head of ashy blonde hair came out of the fist-sized hole, stretching it to fit his body. "I thought I told you to do that when I gave the signal." Kuei sighed, his bodyguard can be so elusive sometimes. "I'm sorry, your highness. Would you like me to hide back so you can finish your speech?" the head of blonde asked, somewhat sheepishly. "No, it takes away the hype when I have to have you go and return later on. Just come out," the Earth King said, smacking his hand on his forehead. "Naruto." Team Avatar shouted in unison, all of them breaking out of their restraints to throw their hands up in celebration, before quickly the restraints retied their hands. Your Highness, should I dispose of Long Feng? Naruto asked. Long Feng got on guard, his Dai Li agent standing at attention. Yes, do so, quietly. The Earth King ordered sternly. Dai Li agents, I command you to stand down, as a close descendant of Avatar Kaioshin, you will stand down. Naruto ordered. Ha! You think they'd listen to you? Attack. Long Feng ordered, looking back to his Dai Li agents when he saw them standing there with hands behind their backs. Did you not hear me? I said attack. He repeated and the same outcome happened. Are you deaf? Attack that boy and the Earth King, now. He ordered, rather angrily because his orders were being tested by his own soldiers. I'll give you a little history lesson. The Dai Li was a group of assassins conducted to carry out the orders of the Earth King. And the person who trained them was none other than my great-great-great-great-grandmother who trained them, Avatar Kaioshin. Long Feng was shocked at this information, his studies didn't point to this fact being known. Perfect, it's working just as planned. Long Feng smirked, his calculative mind working around the possibilities if he could still move this position of vulnerability into a state of inevitability in his favor. Okay, you've caught me. Long Feng said, raising his hands in surrender, before bringing his hands down, doing so brought the roofs down on top of them. Naruto opened his gourds, setting the sand free, grabbing the huge debris, Toph blocked the smaller debris, and Aang used earthbending to separate the dust cloud that formed. They discovered something new at this moment, Long Feng was missing. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.